welcome to Grizzly Tales for gruesome kids. A series of cautionary tales for lovers of squeal. I call this tale The New Nanny. There are things in this story what spiders didn't ought to see. All children are little liars, and any child who says he isn't is the biggest liar of them all. I check to see his pants aren't on fire. There is a family living in South London that has the collective intelligence of a dead ant. Mr. Frightfully Busy spends all his time at the office, while Mrs. Frightfully Busy sells overpriced baubles in a gift shop. Their children, Tristram and Candy, spend their days being completely unpleasant to their long-suffering nanny, old Mrs. Mac. At lunchtime, they put the bits they don't want onto her chair. At bath time, they pretend to be asleep in the water. And Tristram and Candy tell lies. Mrs. Mac beat us today, said Candy. Oh, really? She beat us with your golf clubs, Daddy. What? The next day, Mrs. Frightfully Busy had a childcare crisis. She looked in the telephone directory under Nanny and found this advert. Animal McMagic. Nannies for all. No child too difficult to handle. They are the most adorable little children you could ever wish to meet.
There'll be somebody round in half an hour,
said the voice at the other end of the phone. Half an hour later, there was a ring at the door, but when Mrs. Frightfully Busy opened it, there was nobody there. Down here, hissed a voice on the path. I'm your new nanny. Tristram and Candy stopped dead in their tracks. Had their mother gone bonkers? There was a 35-foot python in the hall. Don't eat us. Eat you? I'm here to look after you. Treat me just as you would any other nanny. Which was the worst thing the snake could possibly have said. Tristram and Candy stuck her tail in hot water. They scattered tin tacks on the garden path. They shoved her head down the loo. They used her as a TV aerial. They even staked her out in the back garden and encouraged the birds to take a peck at their enormous worm. How was the new nanny? Asked Mrs. Frightfully Busy. Really cruel, lied Candy. She tried to strangle me when she gave me a hug. The next morning, Mrs. Frightfully Busy phoned Animal McMagic again. The nanny you sent yesterday was completely useless, she shouted.
Yes, she's told us all about your children. Your new nanny will be dropping in shortly.
15 minutes later, when the doorbell rang, Mrs. Frightfully Busy didn't stop to find out who the new nanny was. Cooey! Came a cry from the sky. I'm your new nanny.
I hate spiders.
Don't be silly, said the spider. I wouldn't harm a fly. Well, maybe a fly, but I wouldn't harm you. Now, where shall we begin?
In the bathroom.
Fibbed Candy.
We always have a bath after breakfast.
It's a well-known fact that spiders hate water. So when the children pushed their new nanny into the bath and pulled out the plug, she was terrified. A raging whirlpool sucked her down into the plug hole. Help me, she cried, but Tristram and Candy had run downstairs to watch her squirt out of the drain pipe.
What can we do now?
Smirked Tristram.
Let's teach her a lesson she'll never forget.
What a fun game, said Mr. Frightfully Busy. What's it called?
Poke the nanny. She's even more cruel than the snake,
lied Tristram.
She spun a web across our mouths to stop us talking.
Then she's never coming back into this house. The following morning, Mrs. Frightfully Busy was back on the phone. And send me a proper nanny this time.
As it happens, we have the perfect nanny right here in the office.
Mr. and Mrs. Frightfully Busy couldn't wait for the new nanny to arrive, which meant that Tristram and Candy were left all alone in the house.
I'm your new nanny.
When Mr. and Mrs. Frightfully Busy came home that night, they couldn't find the children anywhere. They did, however, find 2 warm eggs in the airing cupboard, which they took downstairs and boiled for their tea. My baby! My 2 babies! What happened?
We were rude and nasty to the nanny, so she ate us.
Which was the first time they had ever told the plain truth. I was wondering if you'd found a new nanny yet for Tristram and Candy. No, beamed Mr. Frightfully Busy. In that case, would you like me to come back?
Yes, please,
cried the children without a moment's hesitation. But when Mr. Frightfully Busy bent down to pick up Mrs. Mack's suitcases, he noticed that one was made of snakeskin, one looked remarkably like a spider, and the third was made from the skin of an alligator. Believe me, don't you? Because every word I've told you is true. There's not one word of a lie. Woo, oh dear, it's getting hot in here. Woo, woo, must fry. See you later, alligator.